Good afternoon, everyone. Are you guys not able to still send the any response on the chat? Because I have spoken to the Board of Studies and I've told them to enable this. Uh, if it is not yet enabled, then I'll have to request them. Okay, we are able to. Very good. Very nice. Okay, so you could raise your query over here or on the your Board of Studies app. Only one thing which you have to note down why this action was taken was there was some other classes and there was permission which was granted and people took disadvantage of that. So that's the reason this chat option was disabled. So we don't want that to happen. So kindly maintain the decorum and continue asking only questions related to the subject and nothing else. So that the action what is taken by the institution will not be taken up again. Okay. So have you gone through the topic? Have you gone through the subject chart? Because our major portion part of the time today, we will discuss on the charge based on your queries, like whatever portions was left out on understanding the composition supply. So we will understand the composite supply, composition scheme as such. Once we do the composition scheme, then we'll take up your questions because by the time you read everything and come to your questions, that will take a lot of time. So request you, had we had discussed in the last class, that you will ask the queries, practical queries, queries related to your exams, queries related to the question what you have worked out and what we have read, so that that will help everyone to kind of have a clear understanding of what we are doing. Okay. In case you are thinking that no, I will only listen to the class, that will not help you because ultimately you have to learn. So if you have to learn, you will have to revise it. The way the program also is structured in such a beautiful manner that you can spend a lot of time reading it. Correct? You're having time, you're only just having classes twice a week. Correct? That gives so much time to read for the other days. So kindly go through so that we can make the best use of this class. Okay. What efforts a teacher puts in the class is only 20% compared to your overall studies. From my perspective, I'm putting my 100%, but from your studies perspective, what you can hear will be only 20% because unless you take up yourself to read, then you will not be able to read. So you will have to take yourself to read it. Only then you'll be able to grasp what you're talking about. Okay. So we will go through the charge we had discussed on the basic charge, forward charge, reverse charge, correct? In detail, we understood reverse charge, correct? Lot of people gave a response saying that they understood reverse charge because we had spent so very minutely, detailedly understanding it. उसको ठीक तरह से समझ के अच्छी तरह से समझ के then we are proceeding now. So there should not be any question in your minds, according to me, on reverse charge because reverse charge though we have detailedly read that. Fine. So today we will read about the composition scheme. What is composition scheme? It is a simple scheme which says that if you are a small trader or if you have a small business and you don't want to get into the nitty-gritties of the detailed returns, then what you do, we have a special scheme for you through which you can pay taxes less also, and you don't have to go through a detailed filing system. Now, what is this detailed filing system? When you go to the returns, you will learn that when you make a outward supply, you have to file two returns. One is called outward taxable supply, which is represented through GSTR1, and one more return is called GSTR3B return. So once you have to give all the details of whatever supply you make, that is through GSTR1, then another return to show your total outward liability, that is the tax on your outward supply, and then you will have to reduce your taxes on your inward supply, offset it, then pay the taxes. So there are two returns to be filed. Before filing the first return, you have to accumulate all your sales. Total sales for the month has to be considered, and then you will file your GSTR1 outward supply return. And then to claim the credit, you have to check in the portal whether all your vendors have reported correctly or no. How do you know do that? That is through another statement called as GSTR2B. So in that statement, you will get to know whether all your vendors have charged you tax properly and whether it is appearing against your GSTIN number. Once you do this, then you file a return which is called as a monthly return, which is called as return number GSTR3B. So a normal taxpayer has to file this basic returns. And if he is an e-commerce supplier, then extra returns. If he is a TDS filer, then extra returns. So many extra returns have to be filed. So to do away with it for a small taxpayer, they have come up with the scheme of composition supply, wherein you don't have to get into filing this detailed returns. Just file a annual one return but pay the taxes on a quarterly basis. So that's the benefit what a composition scheme person will get it. Okay. Now they have two composition scheme. One is a composition scheme for goods and another one is composition scheme for services. So first we will read through the composition scheme for goods. The composition scheme for goods is mentioned in section 10.1 and 10.2. It says that if there is a manufacturer, you don't have to pay the regular taxes. If you're a manufacturer, just pay 1% of the turnover in the state or union territory. And if you're a trader, just pay 1% of your turnover of taxable supplies of goods and services. Okay. Here you'll see that we have said that it is a composition scheme for goods. Correct? Then why am I using the words goods and services? Any idea why you are using goods and services here? When here it is a composition scheme for goods only. Kiran Kumar, we'll come to your question. Services ancillary to goods traded. Amendment do after turnover includes goods and services both. No, that's not the answer. Composite supply, possible, yes. But still, when the law said that it is a composite supply for goods, then even if it is a composite supply, how can they let me to do services? Because the GST law has to be read in a strict manner, right? So when it's a strict manner, then how can we read goods and services together? Services are allowed to an extent, correct. Kiran Kumar also has given a correct answer that it is actually a the scheme when it started off, it was strictly interpreted that you can use it only for goods. When they say goods, you should use it only for goods. There was no exception for services, but later on they amended and they said, okay, you should primarily be dealing in goods, and to some extent, if you're doing services, that is fine. So, some extent of services, what is that some extent of services is what we will deliberate to. But you understand that for a person who is under the composition scheme, he can do some amount of services, not 100%. Predominantly, it should be goods and some amount of services. What is that some amount? We'll understand that. And then the third kind of composition scheme which is available is first is for a manufacturer, second is for a trader, and it is also available to a restaurant service provider. Now, You have composition scheme. Also, we have understood that these are for goods. Now we have a composition scheme for services. Earlier, there was only composition scheme for goods. Then the service provider says that we are also small service providers. Why don't you give us the benefit of composition scheme? We also need the benefit of the composition scheme. The government said, okay, we will give it to you also. And your turnover cannot be same like a supply for goods. The limit for composition scheme for goods is 1.5 crores, but for service providers, you will not get that limit. You will get just a limit of 50 lakh rupees. So below 50 lakhs, if you are providing any services, then you can opt for composition scheme under 10(2)(a). And then the service tax, the GST rate, what you will pay is not equivalent to 1% because services, you will have higher margins and higher tax rate. So services you have to pay at 6%. Okay. So that is the basic structure of the scheme. What are the nitty-gritties? This is voluntary and optional scheme, not a compulsory scheme. Okay. So you can opt it or you don't opt it. So if you don't opt, what will happen? You will go with normal scheme. And when you go with the normal GST scheme, you will pay your taxes monthly basis or on a quarterly basis, but make the payment on a monthly basis. So there you will not get a benefit of just lower rate. Whatever is the GST rate applicable for your products, that has to be paid. And whatever is the input tax credit, you can claim it. So both has options, both has the benefits that if you are under the regular scheme, you will get the benefit of input tax credit, but you are under non-regular scheme. If you go to composite scheme, your tax rate is lower, but you cannot claim the input tax credit. So how do we decide which one has to be gone? Whether should we go for regular scheme or composition scheme? By understanding the benefits and how it works out. So first we'll understand the benefits, then we'll come to the question saying that which scheme is better. The benefits of composition scheme is firstly quarterly payment of taxes. You don't have to pay taxes monthly, quarterly payment of taxes at specified rates, that is the rate which we have discussed, without claiming input tax credit, quarterly payment and one annual return. What is the important aspect? It is at specified rates. So you don't have to get into the classification saying that whether your goods are classifiable at 5% rate, whether it's classifiable at 18% rate or 28% rate. You don't have to get into that. You have to just pay on whatever supplies you make. Let it be that if you would have supplied it at as a regular dealer at 18%, now under composition, you still have to pay 1% only. So the rate remains the same. It doesn't change for the type of your business. As long as you are a trader and manufacturer, you pay the specified rates. That is 1% rate. Now, what is the limit? What is the limit up to which you can be under composition scheme? Because if you are small, we will give you the benefit. Once you become big, then we cannot give you the benefit. So what is that limit? The aggregate turnover calculated on all India basis should be up to 1.5 crores in the preceding financial year. Your turnover in the previous financial year should be less than 1.5 crores. And in the present year, it should be up to 1.5 crores. Both. Just cannot say that last year you had a turnover of 5 crores and this year you will go for composition. You cannot. You have to see the turnover of previous year. It should be less than 1.5 crores. And in case of this year, it should be touching less than 1.5 crores. But sir, this year I cannot predict. You're right. This year you cannot predict, but you can get the benefit of the scheme up till you touch the point of 1.5 crores, which means that once you cross 1.5 crores, then you have to come out of the scheme. Okay. Now, previous year 1.5 crores and current year up to 1.5 crores, I'll do it. Now, say previous year it was 1.5 crores. This year it is 1.6 crores. Then what will be the fate of the taxpayer? Will he have to pay tax on that whole 1.6 crores at normal rate? And say next year again his turnover year one less than 1.4 crores, year two 1.6 crores, year three 1.2 crores. So tell me whether in year 1, year 2, and year 3, can he claim the benefit? Year 1, year 2, and year 3. Year, year 1, it is 1.54 crores. Year 2, 1.6 crores. This is 1.6 crores. And third year, 1.2 crores. He can claim benefit on year 1 and year 2 and year 3 because we don't know the turnover of preceding year of year 1. So you're saying we cannot claim the benefit in year 1. So if we don't have any previous turnover, when we are saying Pranav year 1, it means that is the first year of his business. Had it been the 10th year of business, we would have called it as year 10. So when we are calling year 1, it means that this is the start of his business. Then all 3 years he can claim. Okay. Year 2 he can pay in section turn and year 3 he has to pay in normal. Okay. Year 2 he can use composition scheme for year 1, but for subsequent years he cannot. Okay. No benefit in any year. Okay. Various interpretations. Very interesting. Year 1 eligible, year 2 not eligible, year 3 not eligible. Okay. Okay. Lot of confusion, I would say, that you have thought that you have to cross 1.5 crores, only then you get the benefit. That is not the case. It says, see the words, it is up to 1.5 crores. Okay. Which means that in year 1, he is starting the business. Previous year, he did not have any turnover because he did not start any business. In the first year when he started, he can go for composition because when he started, he doesn't know the turnover. Correct? Always registration happens first, then the turnover happens. So when he applies for registration, previous year turnover is not there. Previous year turnover is zero. And he started the business now, so he can claim the benefit. So year 1, he can go for composition scheme comfortably. At the end of the year also, he is below the threshold limit of 1.5 crores. He can go for composition. Year 2. Okay. First year, you understood. Now, second year, we have to see turnover of previous year and the turnover of current year. In the starting of year 2, will he know what is his turnover? He can predict it, but we don't know what will be his turnover. So in year 2, his previous year's turnover was less than 1.5 crores. Correct? First condition satisfied. Now current year, he is touching 1.6 crores, which means he can go for composition because his previous year turnover is less than 5 crores, 1.5 crores. And current year, he will be under composition up to 1.5 crores because he doesn't know he will cross. If he knows, then he will shift from composition to regular, but he doesn't know. Nobody can know what is there in the future. So he will go for composition scheme up to 1.5 crores and he will go for regular scheme for the balance of 10 lakh rupees. Okay. And in third year, can he go or he cannot go? Correct. Third year, he cannot go because can go. Asha, how can he go? Nidu, so many people are saying yes, he can go. Previous year turnover not satisfied. In year 3, his turnover has crossed 1.5 crores. So that itself, first condition itself failed, so he cannot go. Okay. So in year 3, he cannot go because his turnover for the current year is 1.2 crores, but his previous year turnover also has to be seen. His previous year turnover is more than 1.5 crores, so he cannot go for composition. Clear? Second year not understood. Okay. Second year, what I'm trying to say, Virender, that in year two, we will see the turnover of the previous year. Previous year turnover is less than 5 crores, less than 1.5 crores, correct? So first condition is satisfied. Now second condition is current year turnover up to 1.5 crores, he can go for composition because he comes out of the scheme. This is a scheme which is given to you. Now you can use the scheme up to 1.5 crores. So you up to your turnover of 1.5 crores, you are under composition. Once you cross the limit under composition, wherein you're crossing 1.5 crores, then you have to change your registration status. You have to change your status from composition scheme to regular scheme. So up to 1.5 crores, you will be under composition. And for the balance 10 lakh rupees, you will have to go for regular scheme. Got it? So is it possible to go to composition scheme due to reduction in the turnover after second consecutive, like big company which was making good suddenly drop? In the third year, you cannot go because third year you will have to see your previous turnover also. Correct, Afsal. As in financial year, to cross the limit, from then he cannot go with composition. Cannot say from then onwards. Year three, he cannot go. So now year three, we have discussed. Suppose in year four, his turnover is again 1.2 crores. So can he go or he cannot go? Because in year three, he did not go. Now in year four, it is again 1.2 crores. So can he go in year four or no? He can. No. Pallavi, why are you saying he cannot go? He can go, no? Because it's not that once he comes out of composition scheme, he cannot go back. He can definitely go because his previous year turnover, that is in year three, was 1.2 crores, which is less than 1.5. And current year also is less than 1.5. So he can go it. He can change, Pallavi. It is not that once you go under regular, you cannot come to composition. No such restriction. Important. Understand that. You can shift from regular to composition and from composition to regular. But but it should be the change should happen at the beginning of the year. You cannot change it in the middle of the year unless your turnover is crossing. So you can go from composition to regular in middle of the year. But coming back from regular to composition cannot happen in the middle of the year. That has to happen at the beginning of the year itself. Got it? So, Afzal, is your doubt query clarified? You are still saying it is he cannot go. In previous year, he crossed the limit. In year three, he has not crossed the limit, right? Previous year means just the previous year, not any previous year. Just immediate previous year, if he's crossing, then he cannot go. It is not similar to registration because in registration, the limit is that if you cross the threshold limit, you have to take the registration. If your limit falls, still you cannot go back. That is for normal registration. But for composition, that rule doesn't apply. For composition, your switch can happen. So once you have opted out of the composition, gone to the regular, you can come back to the composition scheme if you are satisfying the conditions. If you are satisfying the conditions, then you can come back from regular to composition. If he has to draw the bill to customer, at what rate he will charge GST? We'll come to that. He will not raise a bill at all. One of the important conditions for composition is that you are paying such a low amount. If you're collecting from the customer, then you will also ask that give me the credit. So under composition, you have to pay it by your own. You cannot collect from your customers. Okay. So this is the limit for registration for composition scheme. But in case of 8 special category states, in our special 8 category states, which we still know the name, that TNMM and USMA, for these 8 special category states, the limit drops down to 75 lakhs. Does it drop only for current year? No. Even for the previous year, it drops. So any person in this TNMM USMA states, they will have to see the turnover of previous year, that if it is less than 75 lakhs, and current year also, if the limit is less than 75 lakhs, then you can opt for composition scheme. Okay. Turnover limit for goods is 1.5 crores. Turnover limit for composition for a service provider, it is just 50 lakhs. Similar like how we have previous year, current year, same thing. For services, it is 50 lakhs. For goods, it is 1.5 crores. For special category states, for goods, it is 75 lakhs. For special category states, for services, it is still 50 lakhs. There, they have not made it half. For services, it is 50 lakhs in all the states. Correct. The final burden in this case will be on the seller, not to the customer. The 1% will be on the price we sold, right? After the seller should bear out their profit. Correct. After that itself, it will because in the price what he's selling, whatever is the sale price, on that 1% he will pay. If a person choose regular in the first, then he cannot shift for composition even after dissatisfying the condition. If he's going for regular, then where is the question of any conditions? The conditions are getting satisfied are to be seen only for a composite person. For a regular tax person, if he doesn't claim the credit, government is happy, right? That he did not claim the credit, he's giving more taxes to the government. So if he's there under regular scheme, whether he satisfies the condition, doesn't satisfy the condition, he will continue with the regular scheme. But coming to a special scheme, he has to satisfy some conditions. So if for a manufacturer having 2 plants on same pan in Manipur and Maharashtra, limit will be 75 lakhs or 1.5 crores. In Manipur, very good question. So in Manipur, it is 75 lakhs. So anybody who's going for composition scheme, if they have a presence in Manipur, the limit is 75 lakhs, then that limit will apply for all across other states also. Not that 75 lakhs is only is in Manipur, because that will be considered as the turnover, and we will see what is the value we are considering. What is TNMM and USMA? Very simple. We had discussed this before also, Yashaswini. TNMM stands for 4 special category states, which is Tripura, Nagaland, Mizoram, and Manipur. Okay. Tripura, Nagaland, Mizoram, and Manipur. And USMA stands for Uttarakhand and Sikkim. And MA stands for Meghalaya and Arunachal Pradesh. Got it? So that's the short form to remember it, which we use it in our class specially. So for a manufacturing having 2 plants, we have understood what is TNM and USMA. Then 1% is paid from the pocket of the seller, right? Or he will be able to collect? No, he will not be able to collect from his customers. It will be paid from the pocket of the seller. We are in regular, but later on know about composition. So can we shift? No. You cannot decide something in between. So you can tell that we were under non-registration. We got to know registration. Now we have taken registration. That is not an escape. If you were doing business, you were collecting GST, you were doing a supply transaction, You cannot say that you did not know that I have to take registration. Okay. You have to take registration and pay the taxes. Otherwise, government will fine you and levy penalty also. Manipur levy is not 17 lakhs. Manipur levy is for a composition scheme less, no, 75 lakhs. Now, what is the basis? What is the values which we consider for calculating this? Aggregate turnover. First, we have to see two limits. We have to see the aggregate turnover to calculate the threshold limit, whether you are eligible or not eligible. For that, what all turnover values we will take? We will take the value of taxable supplies. We will take the value of exempt supplies. We will also consider the value of exports and interstate supplies. So total supplies, whatever you're making, outward supplies, whatever you're making, everything will get included. Okay. Taxable supplies, exempt supplies, export of goods or services, and interstate supplies, everything has to be considered. If that limit is less than 1.5 crores, only then you can opt for this. It excludes the value of inward supplies on which tax is payable under RCM. Okay, it excludes the value of inward supplies on which tax is payable under RCM and tax including cess. All inward supplies is gone, and whatever taxes you're paid, that also is not to be included. Explanation to section 10 says it includes value of supplies from 1st April of the financial year to the date of becoming liable for registration, which means you have just started your business and you are making some turnover without any registration. Why? Because for registration also, you don't have to take registration immediately. You can start your business. You will have to take registration once you cross the limit of 20 lakhs or 40 lakhs. Correct? So you have not done any GST registration. You are making supplies. But for calculating this aggregate turnover, since we calculate the turnover for the whole year, we will have to calculate the turnover considering the values made from 1st April of the current financial year. So for this financial year, if you are seeing the limits for the previous financial year, you have to start from 1st April of the financial year. तो आप बीच में जीएसटी रजिस्ट्रेशन ले रहे हो तब से काउंट नहीं करना पड़ेगा आपको पूरे साल 1st अप्रैल से ही जो आपने बिजनेस किया है सब कुछ कंसिडर करना पड़ेगा and it excludes the value of interest or the discount of deposit loans or advances. So any kind of value of interest or discount of deposits, loans and advances, all of that has to be excluded. Okay. Small northeastern states, Mosam Kumari, is that northeastern states, the limit they want taxes and the businesses may not reach up to the extent of 1.5 crores. That's a big limit to anybody to get excluded from regular scheme. So they have told that we will give a benefit and up to 75 lakhs only you can get the benefit of moving out of composition to regular scheme. That is the aggregate turnover. Now, on what turnover you will pay the taxes? You will pay the turnover on the following values. Turnover in a state or union territory which is computed on all India basis having same PAN number. Same whatever you have considered for taxable turnover, aggregate turnover, taxable supply, exempt supply, export and interstate supply. But here you will only calculate taxable supplies and exempt supplies. For a trader, you will not do that also. You will take only taxable supplies. In the first slide itself, we have seen, right? For a manufacturer, turnover in a state, okay? For a trader, taxable turnover in a state. So since the law has used two different words, which means for manufacturer, he will have to pay tax even on his exempt supplies. So if he is making any exempt supplies, correct, on that there is no tax. But since he is under composition, we will consider total turnover. So for a manufacturer, we will consider taxable supplies and exempt supplies. But for a trader, we will take only taxable supplies. Exempt supplies, no GST payable. Export of goods and services and interstate supplies is specifically not included. इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? If they make interstate supplies, no tax payable. Sir, I have a doubt then. For composition, companies crossing 5 crores turnover have to generate their invoice as e-invoice by the GST Act. In that case, the same applies here or no? If it's crossing 5 crores, no, we are not talking about 5 crores at all. We're talking about 1.5 crores. Composition person can issue bill of supply only, no tax invoice. Correct. Sir, in turnover limit, PAN based means आप हैंड रेस करेंगे भावना सो दैट आई कैन अनम्यूट म्यू. क्या है आपका क्वेश्चन?
सर इसमें जो ये लाइन लिखी है ना, टर्नओवर लिमिट के लिए कैलकुलेट द टर्नओवर लिमिट ऑन पैन बेसिस,
करेक्ट.
सर क्या मतलब है इसका?
बताता हूं मैं. सो जो टर्नओवर हम इंक्लूड करेंगे, अगर एक प्रोप्राइटर समझ लिए, एक छोटा प्रोप्राइटर है, उसका बिजनेस बिहार में है, उसका एक ब्रांच दिल्ली में भी है और एक ब्रांच कलकत्ता में भी है, तो 3 ब्रांचेस हो गए. अब जो हमको ये 1.5 करोड़ का लिमिट देखना है, उसके लिए हम ये एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर समझ रहे हैं. तो फिर 1.5 करोड़ के लिए उसका सिर्फ बिहार का बिजनेस नहीं देखेंगे हम लोग, पूरे इंडिया का टर्नओवर देखेंगे. अगर पूरे इंडिया का टर्नओवर 1.5 करोड़ के नीचे है, तब वो कंपोजिशन में जा सकता है. अगर उसके स्टेट का तो टर्नओवर है 90 लाख्स, लेकिन दूसरे स्टेट्स का है 40 लाख्स और 40 लाख्स, तो हो गया ये 1.7 करोड़. तो ओवरऑल लिमिट देखेंगे तो फिर इसने 1.5 करोड़ क्रॉस कर लिया, वो रजिस्ट्रेशन नहीं ले सकते अंडर कॉम्पोजिशन स्कीम.
सर इसमें एक
उसका
पॉइंट और है, इन
हम्म.
प्रेजेंट ईयर अप टू 1.5 करोड़ एंड ब्रैकेट में सर 75 लाख लिखा हुआ है.
करेक्ट. तो 75
सर
लाख्स
थर्ड
का हमने,
पॉइंट.
75 लाख्स में हमने बताया था ना अभी. 75 लाख किसको अप्लीकेबल होगा?
सर ये 8 स्टेट्स के लिए था.
करेक्ट. तो सेम वही एज स्टेट यहाँ पे भी है कि उनको पिछले साल का भी आप लिमिट देखोगे और इस साल का भी लिमिट देखोगे फॉर दिस 8 स्पेशल कैटेगरी स्टेट्स.
ओके सर. सर इसके बाद जो एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर है, सर
हम्म.
वो वाली स्लाइड निकालना. हाँ जी सर. सर इसमें ये एक्सक्लूड, ये फर्स्ट पॉइंट है, वैल्यू ऑफ इनवार्ड सप्लाई ऑन विच टैक्स इज पेबल अंडर आरसीएम. सर ये
हम्म.
वाला पॉइंट तो समझा दो.
तो आपको पता है ना, आरसीएम हमने सीखा था पिछले क्लास में. आरसीएम में
यस.
टैक्स कौन भरेगा?
आरसीएम में सर जो सप्लायर, सर
सप्लायर
जो
पे करेगा,
सर रिसीवर.
रिसीवर पे करेगा. करेक्ट. तो अगर आप एक बंदे हो, आप टैक्स पे कर रहे हो आपके आउटवर्ड सप्लाईज पे, और आपको कोई इनवर्ट सप्लाईज आया जिसके ऊपर आपको रिवर्स चार्ज पे करना है.
यस
ठीक
सर.
है. तो आप उस रिवर्स चार्ज को, जो वैल्यू के ऊपर आप पे कर रहे हो, क्या उसे आप एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर में इंक्लूड करोगे?
सर पता नहीं.
आपका तो परचेज है ना, हम तो टर्नओवर बोल रहे हैं सेल्स के लिए. आप टैक्स
यस
किसके
सर.
पे ऊपर भरोगे? सेल्स के ऊपर.
सेल्स पे.
लेकिन रिवर्स चार्ज में क्या कर रहे हैं? रिवर्स चार्ज में भी आप टैक्स पे कर रहे हो, तो फिर क्या रिवर्स
यस.
चार्ज में आप जो टैक्स भर रहे हो उसको भी ऐड करोगे? नहीं करना चाहिए, क्योंकि वो है रिवर्स चार्ज इज ऑन परचेज नॉट ऑन योर आउटवर्ड सप्लाईज. तो इसीलिए रिवर्स चार्ज के ऊपर जो भर रहे हो वो वैल्यू को आप टैक्स तो भरोगे, लेकिन उसको इस एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर में इंक्लूड करने की जरूरत नहीं.
ओके सर. थैंक यू सर.
ओके. Yes, Mr. Saikiran.
Sir, for a composite registration person, calculation of turnover, we have to take into account taxable supplies and exempt supplies. In the exempt supplies, what is the status for petrol, diesel, and agriculture produce turnover, sir? Please tell.
The exempt supply includes non-taxable supplies and non-GST supply also. So any kind of products which are not under GST, they are also included in the definition of exempt supply. So that also has to be taken up and added up.
So petrol, diesel, and agriculture produce supply also will be included, sir.
Agriculture produce, no, only 5 petroleum products, those will be included.
Okay.
Fine. Yes, Hardik, what is your question?
Good, good afternoon, sir.
Yes, good afternoon.
Turnover in case of 8 states, that was 75 lakh, and the normal states 1.5 crore. Sir, in that case, you told that if a person is having a business in Maharashtra and Manipur, then 75 lakh aggregate turnover will be seen for all of his business. Is it true, sir?
Correct. It will be seen for all of his registrations across various states.
So, sir, like in the case of registration, also the lower limit will apply.
Correct. If you have to opt for composition in that states also your limit should be less than 75 lakhs.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Can a CA opt for composition scheme? This is a question raised by one of the participants. Can a CA opt for composition scheme? What do you think, Arun Kumar? Can you opt it? Maybe yes. What is this? Maybe yes, Bhavna. It can be yes or no. If it is maybe yes, then tax payable also will be like that. Maybe he will pay, maybe he is not liable to pay. Tax laws cannot be so very rigid, like open-ended, that you may pay or you may not pay. It has to be clear. Virender Sharma is saying no, you cannot claim. Fifty lakh turnover in previous year and current year tax payable 6% on annual basis. If turnover limit for services are complied, then he can. Yes, he is complying with the services turnover. The question is whether a CA can take. Of course, other conditions will satisfy. It doesn't mean that since a CA he can do turnover of 2 crores and do not pay under composition. No, we are not asking that. Generally, can a CA opt for the scheme? Arun Kumar is saying no in his view. Bala Murugan is saying no. But the answer is already paying tax under 194J. No, 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 that's not, that's income tax. Do not mix income tax with GST. Do not go with your emotions. Like last time also we had seen that many students were thinking that if he is doing any kind of a double taxation, that income tax is paying, so here he cannot pay. No, that is not gonna work here. That will not happen here. If a person is getting paid under TDS, we had explained clearly that TDS is not a burden. It is not a tax. It is just a tax which is collected in advance. If you have to pay income tax, you can reduce that TDS. Or if you do not have any tax liability, then you can claim refund of the TDS. So just because he is paying TDS, that doesn't mean that he cannot opt for composition. The question is under composition, the limit is 1.5 crores for 50 lakhs for any person who's providing any services. So In the case of a chartered accountant also, he's providing services. If his limit is below 50 lakhs, he can opt for composition. Okay. Yes, exempt supply includes alcoholic liquor for human consumption as well. Yeah. It includes the value of supply from 1st April this year, and it excludes the value of interest or discount on deposits, loans, and advances. So we know what is the turnover for what all we can include. We have to include taxable supplies, exempt supplies, export, and interstate supplies for calculating aggregate turnover. We have to exclude the tax values, and we have to exclude the taxes which we are paying under reverse charge mechanism. Correct? Now, it and two more explanation. It says that it includes the values from 1st April this year till you reach the registration limit. That also has to be included. And it excludes the value of interest or discount on deposit, loans, and advances because it is exempt supply. And even in this turnover, we should not include. So that's why I specifically said in calculating this threshold limit, you should not include the value of interest or discount which you're giving on deposits, loans, and advances. Clear? For a trader, will pay only on taxable supply. On exempt supply, only a manufacturer will pay. What are the conditions for eligibility, non-eligibility? A person who is not eligible for composition is first is the person making any supplies of goods or services which are not liable to tax. You are not liable to tax. You will not take normal registration only. So composition scheme also is not available for you. So if you're dealing only with those supplies which is not liable to tax, do not take registration, and definitely composition scheme so don't take. Second is person making any interstate outward supply of goods or services. These are the conditions that you will be ineligible. You are not eligible. When you are not eligible, when you are making any interstate supplies. Okay. If you are making an interstate supply, you cannot opt for composition because composition may, there's no logic as such, but what we can interrupt through that is that if you are making a interstate supply, which means the revenue for that will be IGST that will go to another state. So how will the revenue of your state increase? So if you are doing any interstate, do not ask for the benefit because composition scheme is like a benefit. You don't have to pay taxes every month. You don't have to file monthly returns. That's a benefit. So if you are making any supplies interstate, you are not eligible for this scheme. Then person supplying goods or services through an e-commerce operator who is required to collect TCS. If you're providing any goods or services to an e-commerce operator and that e-commerce operator is required to collect TCS, then generally all e-commerce operators are required to collect TCS, then you don't have to opt for this scheme. You cannot come into the scheme. Fourth, if you are a manufacturer of some specific products, if you are a manufacturer of ice cream, pan masala, tobacco, aerated water, fly ash bricks, blocks, bricks of osmosis, specific goods I've said. Basically, ice cream, pan masala, tobacco, this we can understand. Then it's all kind of construction materials, which is fly ash bricks, bricks of fossil minerals, building bricks, earthen or roofing tiles, all of this. Okay. If you are manufacturer, trader can claim it, but if a person is a manufacturer, then he cannot claim this. Then a casual taxable person or non-resident taxable person also cannot claim this. What's a casual taxable person? We have learned this, right? A casual taxable person is one who is registered in one state, but going to another state for registration. Now, this person, when he goes to another state, there his turnover is very less. So can he say that, sir, I want to register for composition scheme? Give me a temporary registration. I know I'm a composition scheme. I'll be getting registration only for 3 months. In that 3 month also, I don't want to pay very high taxes, sir. So please give me a composition scheme. Will he get? He will not get approval because a casual taxable person is coming to do business here and go back. So in such case, a casual taxable person cannot opt for this composition scheme. Also, there is a word called next to the composition taxable person, a non-resident taxable person. Non-resident taxable person means a person who is staying outside India but coming to India for any work. Okay. They cannot come to anybody who's traveling from one country to another country. They will need a visa for it. So this visa acts as an entry point. So once a non-resident taxable person comes to India, he can only do, he cannot get into this special scheme. This special scheme is not applicable for him, neither for a casual taxable person. Okay. Those are the conditions to get into the scheme. Once you are into the scheme, then what you have to do, you have to pay tax under 9(3) or 9(4). Okay. You have to pay tax under section 9(3) or 9(4). That is the reverse charge mechanism. You will have to pay taxes under 9(3) or 9(4) on your inward supplies, because when you do any RCM, you have to pay tax. Correct? Now, the composition scheme is for all your supplies, outward supplies. Now, if you take any inward supplies on which reverse charge is payable, then you have to pay it. No option available here. If you have you are a composition scheme person, okay? Now you are there under composition scheme. You have taken some services of an advocate. Now, on this, will you pay reverse charge or no? And at what rate? Normally, the GST on reverse charge of any kind of legal services or others, except GTA, you have two rates, but for legal services, it is at 18%. So if you take any reverse charge service, will you pay to the government, or what will you do? Correct, Anirudh. 350 lakh turnover in previous year and current year also, then tax payable is 6% of the annual basis. Tax payment will happen on a quarterly basis. Filing of return will happen on an annual basis. To the government in RCM, if a person is a business entity, did not understand your question, Hardik. GST is payable to the government. GST is ultimately payable to the government, no doubt. Correct. So to the government in RCM will be payable. So if a person who is under composition on all his outward supplies, he is paying at 1%. But any inward supplies he had, on that he will have to pay RCM at the regular rate. So that benefit of reduction will not be applicable, will not be available to him. So on his outward supplies, we know what is to be included, what is to be excluded. There he will pay at 1%. But when he gets the services on which he has to pay RCM, and that value of that service is say 1 lakh rupees, on that GST rate is 18%, which is to be paid by a regular tax payable under reverse charge. Now, this person is the person who's out for composition. His limit is fine, but what is happening is any reverse charge services, any legal services, any GTA service he takes, on that he will have to pay reverse charge. He cannot say, no, on my outward, I'm a composition scheme, so inward, I will not pay. He cannot say that. On his inward, he will have to pay at that rate, what is there on that goods or service. And then supply of services, he can do subject to marginal supply of scheme. So we had said some leeway is given that he can provide services. Now, what is that leeway? Will come here. The service value, marginal supply of service for composition scheme is he can provide services up to 10% of the turnover in a state or union territory in the preceding financial year. 10% of the turnover, not this year. If you are making supply of 1.3 crores and last year your turnover was 1 crore. So this year, how much of services you can do? You can do 10% of the turnover in the preceding financial year. Okay. So 10% of the turnover, you can provide services. 10 lakh rupees, 10% of that is, how much I say? 1 crore. 1 crore is this previous year's turnover. On that, 10% is 10 lakh rupees. So up to 10 lakh rupees, he can provide services. So whatever is his previous turnover of that 10% or 5 lakhs, whichever is higher. In your case, you have done a turnover of 1 crore, 10% of this is 10 lakhs. So you can make a supply of, you can provide the services up to the value of 10 lakh only. Again, in this turnover, the interest on loans, deposit, advances will not be taken into account. Yes, Hardik Marwa.
Sir, sir, in this case, usually the marginal supply of services is a part of goods, 10.1 and 10.2.
Correct.
And sir, I was asking, and sir, second doubt was that if a person is having a turnover of say 1.5, 1.4 crore, then
Okay.
10% is 14 lakhs. So, sir, he can give a marginal services up to 10 lakh.
Correct. Because he's touching 1.5 crores.
Above that, it will be a normal scheme.
Then he will have to go shift it from the composition to normal and pay taxes on it.
मतलब remaining 4 lakh.
Correct.
ठीक है सर, बस ये पूछा. Thank you, sir.
Not exceeding 10% means that we had given the example 1 crore was the turnover. On that, how much of services you can provide this year? 10% of that, which is 5 lakh rupees. So that turnover or 5 lakh, whichever is higher. Now there he has to make a disclosure. कैजुअल टैक्सेबल पर्सन समझ में आ गया ना, जो एक स्टेट से दूसरे स्टेट में जाता है और वहां पे एग्जीबिशन खोलता है, उस बंदे को जो रजिस्ट्रेशन वहां पे टेम्पररी मिलेगा उसे कहते हैं कैजुअल टैक्सेबल पर्सन. नाउ दिस कैजुअल टैक्सेबल पर्सन कैन ही ऑप्ट फॉर कॉम्पोजिशन स्कीम? नहीं, he has to go for normal scheme. He cannot opt for composition scheme. Yes, Sai Kiran.
Sir, as per recent amendment, a composite person is restricted to do interstate supplies through e-commerce, but intrastate is permitted, sir, as per recent amendment.
Correct.
Intrastate is permitted.
But those are not applicable for your exams, so we are not touching this. Just seeing your material if that is relevant for you.
Okay, sir.
NTP, नॉन टैक्सेबल नॉन रजिस्टर्ड टैक्सेबल पर्सन, वी आर डिस्कस नो, जो फॉरेन से आता है और यहाँ पे बिजनेस करता है. जैसे कैजुअल टैक्सेबल पर्सन एक स्टेट से दूसरे स्टेट में जाके कुछ बिजनेस करता है, वैसे ही नॉन रेसिडेंट टैक्सेबल पर्सन आउटसाइड इंडिया, फॉरेनर, बेसिकली फॉरेनर आके इंडिया में बिजनेस करता है और उसको जीएसटी रजिस्ट्रेशन लेना है, तो वो कॉम्पोजिशन स्कीम का बेनिफिट नहीं ले सकता है, उसको रेगुलर स्कीम का ही बेनिफिट लेना पड़ेगा. ठीक है. नाउ डिस्क्लोजर. सर मुझे क्या डिस्क्लोज करना पड़ेगा बीइंग अ कैजुअल टैक्सेबल पर्सन? कुछ ज्यादा नहीं करना है आपको. जो इनवॉइस आप रेज करोगे उसके ऊपर ऐसा लिखना है कि composite taxable person not eligible to collect tax on supplies. He has to disclose it in the invoice, क्योंकि वो कस्टमर से जीएसटी कलेक्ट नहीं कर सकता है. वॉट एवर परसेंटेज यू आर टेकिंग, 1%, 3%, 5%, this has to be paid by me from my own pocket. I cannot collect it from my customer. So इसलिए casual composite taxable person not eligible to collect tax on supplies शुड बी मेंशन. और जब वो बोर्ड का डिस्प्ले करता है, सब जगह हम देखते हैं नाम है और जीएसटी नंबर है, वहां पे उसको लिखना पड़ेगा कि कॉम्पोजिशन टैक्सेबल पर्सन. ओके. Okay, that is the marginal percentage. Now, who are the persons who are not eligible for composition scheme for services? There are two schemes, right? 10.1, 10.1A and 10.2A. 10.2A is for composition scheme for services. यहाँ पे क्या बोलता है? Who person who is making any supply which are not liable to tax, जैसे वो कुछ सर्विस प्रोवाइड करता है उसके ऊपर टैक्स नहीं है, तो फिर वो इसके अंदर ऑप्ट नहीं कर सकता है. देन पर्सन मेकिंग एनी इंटरस्टेट आउटवर्ड सप्लाईज, अगर ये भी इंटरस्टेट कर रहा है तो उसको जीएसटी से स्कीम से बाहर निकलना चाहिए, जीएसटी से नहीं. वो उसको कॉम्पोजिशन स्कीम से बाहर निकल के रेगुलर स्कीम में ऑप्ट करना पड़ेगा. पर्सन सप्लाइंग गुड्स और सर्विसेज थ्रू अगेन थ्रू एन ई कॉमर्स ऑपरेटर एंड सप्लायर ऑफ नोटिफाइड सर्विसेज एंड अ कैजुअल टैक्सेबल पर्सन और अ नॉन रेसिडेंट टैक्सेबल पर्सन, अगेन सेम कंडीशंस. और यहां पर भी उसे 9.3 या 9.4 में रिवर्स चार्ज पे पे करना पड़ेगा. Sir, how to check whether he is a composite taxable person or no? When you take his registration number and check it in the portal, there you will get to know whether it is a regular taxable person or a casual taxable person. There you will get to know, and he is supposed to display also. So in case he doesn't display, take the GST number, put it in the portal. Okay, in the GST portal called gst.gov.in, check the status of a taxable person. If you put the GSTI number there, you will get to know the status. Now, intimation for opting for composition scheme. एक मिनट, यहां से पहले some doubts है यहाँ पे. some doubt, क्या है डाउट यहाँ पे? नॉट एक्सीडिंग 10%, इसका एक्सप्लेनेशन चाहिए. सिंपल है भैया. नंबर्स नंबर्स का है, नंबर्स के थ्रू हम बात करेंगे. ठीक है. आपका 2023, 22, 23 में आप कॉम्पोजिशन में थे. आपका टर्नओवर है 1.25 करोड़. ठीक है. अभी 2023-24 में आपको, ठीक है, 23-24 भी ले लेंगे, लेट्स टेक एक्चुअल सिचुएशन ना. 23-24 में आपका है 1.55 करोड़. और अभी 2024-25 में आप कितना सर्विस कर सकते हो? सो टर्नओवर ऑफ गुड्स हाउ मच एंड टर्नओवर ऑफ सर्विसेज हाउ मच. फर्स्टली गुड्स के लिए के तो कुछ लिमिट नहीं है, यू कैन डू एनी टर्नओवर, करेक्ट. लेकिन सर्विसेज के लिए क्या लिमिट है? दैट इज व्हाट दिस पॉइंट इज सेइंग. ये पॉइंट बोल रहा है कि आपको 10% ऑफ अ टर्नओवर इन अ स्टेट यू कैन डू, दैट इज 10% ऑफ द टर्नओवर इन अ स्टेट इन द प्रीसीडिंग फाइनेंशियल ईयर और 5 lakhs विच एवर इज हायर. तो इसके हिसाब से आप बताइए. स्पेसिफिकली दिस क्वेश्चन इज टू वीरेंद्र शर्मा. यू आंसर इस केस में हाउ मच ऑफ सर्विसेज ही कैन डू. 12.5 lakhs. 10%. हाँ भैया, वैल्यूज बोलिए. 10% तो यहाँ पे है, कोई भी देख के बोल सकता है, लेकिन आप मेरे को अभी एब्सोल्यूट वैल्यूज दीजिए. 10% ऑफ द टर्नओवर इन द स्टेट in the preceding financial year. So I'm asking for 24, 25. How much can he do? Twenty-two, 23, he can do 12.5 lakhs. 23, 24, out of composition scheme, 24, no, very confusing, Anirudh. Virender Sharma is saying 10%, which is 0.155, which is 15 लाख रुपए तक कर सकता है. So everybody is in consent. Up to 15 lakhs he can do services. Correct? 15.5 lakhs. He can do services. मैं तो कहता हूं एक बार फिर से सोच लीजिए. Ratimani Vaitishwaran is saying he can do up to 15.5 lakhs. Okay, she's also saying you can do up to 15 lakh 50,000 rupees. Okay, so which means that everybody is giving the answer, so it has to be correct, but unfortunately it is wrong. Hardik Marwa and Virender Sharma. Virender Sharma, what do you think? You're saying 15.5 lakhs, now you're saying no. The actual point is all your answers is wrong. You're only using math, but your math is not required. Here, the point is he is crossed 1.5 crores in 23-24. So, how much turnover he can do for services is not relevant here. Firstly, he is not under he cannot go for composition in the year 2024-25. Why? Because in 23-24, he has crossed 1.5 crores. Don't apply math blindly. Math can be used by anybody, but as a CA student, we have to use both math and logic. Okay. So firstly, in 24-25, he cannot go for composition scheme. That is first point. Second, now so then how much he can do turnover of services, things will not apply. So let us take another example. 2023-24, my turnover was 1.3 crores. Okay. Now 2024-25, how much of turnover of services can I do? And how much of turnover of goods can I do? Maximum, it's not that utna hi karna chahiye. What is the maximum turnover of services which a person can do? He has to go under regular scheme. Why? Goods no limit, services 13 lakhs. Okay, Shruti Kumar is saying services 13 lakhs. That is correct. But goods no turnover limit. तो वो 5 crore भी कर सकते हैं क्या? Ashutosh, you are also saying no limit for goods. There is a limit now, up to 1.5 crores. Correct? So he can do turnover in current year if he wants to remain under composition. If he wants to opt out of the composition, then what you are saying is right. But if he wants to stay in composition, then he has to provide services of 13 lakhs and goods up to 1.37 crores. Anirudh, you're wrong. You're saying 24-25 services 15 lakhs and goods 135 lakhs. No. The limit is here which says that 10% of the turnover in the preceding financial year. So he cannot go for 1 point, as you're saying, 10%, 15 lakhs in current year? No. सर वाई 1.37 crores? क्योंकि टोटल कॉम्पोजिशन में रहने का लिमिट क्या है? 1.5 crores. अब 1 crore 50 lakhs में से 13 लाख रुपए आप सर्विसेज तक प्रोवाइड कर सकते हो, करेक्ट? तो 1 crore 50 lakhs में 13 लाख गया तो 1 crore 37 lakhs है, लेकिन आप सर्विसेज कम कर देते हो तो देन यू कैन प्रोवाइड मोर गुड्स. ओवरऑल लिमिट 1.45 crores होना चाहिए. Vinutha, 1.37 crores is 1.5 crores minus 13 lakhs. That is the limit of goods if he's providing services up to 13 lakhs. So if he's providing services say up to 10 lakhs, then he can provide goods, he can provide supply of goods up to 1.4 crores. Is it combination of goods and services allowed under composition? Yes, combination of goods and services allowed, but the limit is only for upper limit for services. The marginal scheme applies only for services. For goods, there is no limit. Okay, so you need one more explanation. We'll take another example again. Now understand this carefully. Third example. First example over, second, third. Now third example, 2022-23, the turnover was 50 lakhs. Okay. Now in 2023-24, okay, let's take 40 lakhs. 2023-24, how much turnover he can do for service? %10 of the turnover, correct? 10% of the turnover or 5 lakh, whichever is higher. So higher is 5 is more than 4. So you can do turnover of services up to 5 lakh rupees. And goods he can do up to 1.45 crores. अभी समझ में आ गया? Clear? बस वही कैलकुलेशन है. ठीक है. So that is a marginal scheme. अभी आगे बढ़ते हैं. When you have to intimate कि आप composition जा रहे हो, when you will intimate, intimation for opting for composition, if you are taking a new registration, okay, नई दुल्हन की तरह नया रजिस्ट्रेशन आप ले रहे हो, तब आप जब रजिस्ट्रेशन ले रहे हो तभी आपको फॉर्म जीएसटी आरईजी 01, ये क्या है जीएसटी आरईजी 01? दिस इज द फॉर्म फॉर टेकिंग रजिस्ट्रेशन. आपको रजिस्ट्रेशन फॉर्म जब फिलअप करते हो तब वहां पे यू हैव टू मेंशन दैट आई वांट टू ऑप्ट फॉर कॉम्पोजिशन. इफ यू हैव मेंशनड, देन द इफेक्टिव डेट कौन सा होगा? द डेट फ्रॉम विच योर रजिस्ट्रेशन इज इफेक्टिव. जब से आप रजिस्ट्रेशन ले रहे हो तब से आपको कॉम्पोजिशन स्कीम मिल जाएगा, बिकॉज आप नई दुल्हन हो, यू आर टेकिंग अ फ्रेश रजिस्ट्रेशन, यू आर टेकिंग अ न्यू रजिस्ट्रेशन, सो यू विल गेट द बेनिफिट फ्रॉम द डेट ऑफ रजिस्ट्रेशन इटसेल्फ. इफ यू आर हैविंग अ एग्जिस्टिंग रजिस्ट्रेशन, आप ऑलरेडी रजिस्टर्ड हो, then you have to file intimation electronically plus statement of tax stock within 60 days of the financial year. Okay, साल शुरू होने के 60 डेज पहले से ही आपकी खिड़की खुल जाएगी. ओके, सो इफ यू आर वांटिंग टू ऑप्ट from next January, April 2025, क्योंकि 24-25 चल रहा है ना अभी. Now you cannot opt. If you want to opt for the next year, you have to file the intimation within 60 days of the financial year. If you intimate on time, then you can apply for composition from the next financial year. As we had discussed, you cannot do that in between the year. In between the year करने का आपका option नहीं है. You have to do it from beginning of the financial year itself. What will be the effective date? The effective date will always be from the beginning of the financial year. You will not get a beginning date from middle of the year. You will get it from beginning of the financial year. In marginal scheme, it is written that other than restraint services, why so, sir? So also comes under 10.2. I'll come to that. Composition levy, existing registration is intimate file is compulsory or not? You have to intimate it, because if you're asking for a case where composition levy is already taken a registration, which is under composition. If he is already under composition, then he need not intimate. Thus, intimation is only for a person who is not under composition. That is, he is under regular scheme. Now he wants to go for composition scheme. Okay, so he has to intimate before two things. He has to file intimation electronically before the financial year, and statement of stock has to be given within 60 days. So he has to file the intimation anytime before the financial year. So generally it opens in January, February, the option in the portal. Then he has to mention that he wants to opt for composition, and within 60 days of the financial year, he has to give the stock statement. Why? Because under regular scheme, he was taking input tax credit. Now, when he is opting for composition, he will not get the input tax credit. So whatever stock was lying with him as on the end of the financial year, on that credit has to get reversed. Okay, that's why he will have to give the stock statement. Intimation electronically means it has to be uploaded on the GST portal. That is the meaning of intimation electronically. He has to file the request for going to composition on the GST portal. Validity of the composition scheme, unless it is withdrawn by a taxpayer, it will continue. So it could be intimated by the taxpayer who ceases to satisfy the condition, which means he is crossing the limit. Okay. Then he has to file an intimation for withdrawal within 7 days of that occurrence of the event. And he will have to pay regular tax for every taxable supply thereafter. And effective date of withdrawal shall be what? Shall be the date of intimation mentioned. That is, the effective date of withdrawal will be the date of intimation mentioned, but it has to be present year, cannot be a previous year. Okay. The effective date of withdrawal, what he's doing, should be the date of intimation mentioned, but he cannot go for withdrawal of the previous year. He can go for withdrawal of this financial year only. Okay. Withdrawal by a taxpayer who intends to withdraw from the scheme shall file an application before the date of such withdrawal, and effective date of withdrawal shall be the date of intimation mentioned, but it has to be present year. Again, it cannot be previous year. First is who ceases to satisfy, then he has to file an intimation within 7 days, but who is not ceasing to satisfy, he's satisfying the condition, but he wants to come out saying that no, I will be more beneficial if I claim the input tax credit. there he can file an application. There 7 days is criteria is not there because there is no such thing which is triggered. He's just thinking that he wants to come out, he can come out of it. He has to file an application, and the effective date of withdrawal shall be the intimation what he is mentioning there. Six days before, no, anytime before the start of the financial year. That is what I had clarified, Anirudh. Anytime before the start of the financial year, but within first 2 months of the financial year, that is April, correct? April will be the effective date of registration. April and May. By 30th May, he has to give the statement of the stock. Your stock means goods. Yes, stock means the goods only. Denial of option by tax authorities कि वो apply करता है. Can the tax authorities deny it? Yes, where the proper officer has reasons to believe that the person is not eligible for composition levy, or the person has contravened the provisions of the act, then he can cancel the composition. अगर composition चल रहा है तब उसको cancel कर सकते हैं. कैसे करना है? He will issue something called as a show cause notice saying that I want to cancel your registration. So I'm giving you an intimation that I want to cancel. I'm giving you an opportunity that come and answer me why I should not cancel it. So I'm giving you a show cause. You show me the cause why I should not cancel. If you do not show cause, then I will cancel it. So he will give a notice. This notice is called as show cause notice. And then a reply will be filed by the taxpayer. Then the officer will pass an order either accepting the reply or denying the option to pay tax under composition. The effective date will be from a date which can be retrospective also, which can be old dated. As we had understood, retrospective means a date which is before the current date. That is called as a retrospective date. It can be from a date which can be a retrospective date, which will not be before the date of contravention of the provisions of the Act. In all the three cases, the taxable person will have to furnish a statement. So either cancellation can be of three types. First is cancellation by yourself that you have crossed the limit. Second is when you are not willing to continue the composition and you want to come out of it, voluntary option. Third option is when the option of composition is denied by the tax authorities. Three ways you can come out of the composition scheme. But in all the three cases, you have to furnish a statement of your withdrawal and statement of stocks held. Okay, why? Because if you go from how you came from regular to composition, your stock, what was there on that, you paid the input tax credit that you have to reverse. Similarly, under composition, when you're going to regular, you can claim the credit on that stock. So you have to give that stock details so that on that stock, whatever is the tax paid, that you can claim. Okay, so earlier it was 60, it continues 60 days, even in the material. I am seeing page number 3.64. Here it states that he has to furnish the statement and prescribed from within 60 days.
Sir, I'm
Yes.
asking that, previously it was 60 days. That in previous slide we have seen that it is a 60 days. Sir,
Hmm.
it is 60 days for registration.
Correct. We're talking about registration itself.
And sir, here we have to give the 60-day statement so that the ITC could be reversed.
Okay.
And there we have to, for claiming the ITC. I was having a doubt between these two slides.
No, here it is 60 days when you're opting for composition scheme, correct?
Yes, sir.
So when you opt for composition scheme, you have to give the stock statement within 60 days itself.
Okay, sir.
And when you opt out of the scheme, then you have to give within 30 days.
No, sir, that 60 days for reversing the ITC and this 30 days is for claiming the ITC.
Correct. Correct.
Okay,
So
sir.
that is 60 and this is 30.
Okay, sir.
So 60 effectively is when you get into the scheme and you have to reverse the ITC. And when you come out of the scheme, there it is 30 days and you can claim the credit then. Okay. There was another statement. Okay. We'll take a break here and we'll come back and discuss on the last part of the composition scheme and we'll take the MCQs. If we are able to complete the chapter before, we'll take questions and then we will continue with the next chapter today itself. Thank you. So we were discussing on composition scheme. There are some questions before we proceed further. Sir, in marginal supply of services, we should consider turnover of state and not aggregate turnover for 10%. See the wordings, what is used. Let us go with that. It says for it is 10% of the turnover in a state. Correct. So we'll see the turnover in a state and not the aggregate turnover. You're right. But the values what we have to see and how do we calculate, that is what I was trying to display. Yes, Sahid.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
So I wanted to share a case scenario relating to service provided by way of sponsorship to any body corporate or partnership firm. And I have a question on that case scenario, sir. Can I share it now or at the end of session, sir?
Yeah, at the end of the session, so that, but
Okay,
actually we
sir.
are done. You can ask it now, no problem.
Okay, sir. So the case scenario is if the sponsorship is provided by a partnership, uh, uh, sorry, sir, if a sponsorship is provided by a proprietor of a partnership firm to a cricket team for marketing purpose, then GST will be levied from the farm and not from the proprietor under reverse charge mechanism. Is it correct, sir?
Correct, correct.
Then, sir, my question is, if the sponsorship is provided by a proprietor from his personal income for the goodwill of his own sake and not from the profit of the farm, so
Okay.
then also farm is liable to pay GST under reverse charge mechanism.
No, then reverse charge. So in the first scenario also reverse charge doesn't come, no, because sponsorship in both the cases is provided by the proprietorship firm. And proprietorship firm in both the cases is not paying reverse charge. It is only under forward charge that the person who is receiving the sponsorship is providing it. So it is under forward charge, not under reverse charge.
But sir, in this case scenario, the cricket team is providing, is receiving sponsorship, but he's providing marketing for the farm. So farm is also receiving service.
Not the firm, no. In your example, you had said the sponsorship is provided by the proprietor.
Proprietor.
The proprietor
In
is
first
not
case,
the person who is eligible. Who is eligible for paying reverse charge is only a company or company or a partnership firm.
okay, sir, understood, sir.
The proprietor doesn't get
Thank you, sir.
covered there. Sure.
Understood.
So we got to know intimation, validity of the composition scheme and other things. So how do you calculate the input tax reversal when you opt for composition from regular scheme? And when you go from regular to composition, how to claim the credit? Once we understand the scenario of input tax credit, there this aspect will be covered. So we will touch base again on the composition scheme under the chapter of input tax credit. But this concept you have to understand that you can shift from regular to composition and composition to regular. We'll take up few questions to understand. Mr. A has obtained a registration of a casual taxable person to make a display in exhibition. His turnover from the exhibition is only 50 lakhs. Whether Mr. A is eligible for composition. Correct. Everybody has given a correct answer that he is not eligible because a composition taxable person cannot opt for composition scheme. Question number 2, can the composition scheme be availed if the taxable person has interstate inward supplies? Yes, composition scheme is applicable to subject to the condition that taxable person does not engage in making interstate outward supply. So in this case, it is interstate inward supply where there is no restriction. So he can opt for composition scheme even if he is making any interstate inward supplies. Bhavna, no eligible for composition scheme because of interstate inward supply. क्यों?
सर अभी आपने वो टर्न उसके अंदर सर वो एग्रीगेट इनकम था उसके एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर था उसके अंदर आपने एक्सक्लूड में बताया था ना सर ये वाला पॉइंट इंटरेस्टेड इनवर्ड सप्लाई पे इंक्लूड नहीं होता
हमने ये स्ट्राइक ऑफ किया था इंटरस्टेट सप्लाईज, करेक्ट? तो इंटरस्टेट सप्लाईज का क्या मतलब होता है? टर्नओवर जब वो सेल करेगा तब इंटरस्टेट सप्लाई होगा। तो इसमें कंडीशन क्या था, यहाँ पे हमने बताया था पर्सन मेकिंग इंटरस्टेट आउटवर्ड सप्लाईज। ठीक है, वो आउटवर्ड सप्लाईज नहीं कर सकता है, लेकिन आउटवर्ड सप्लाई मतलब सेल करना, करेक्ट? वो इंटरस्टेट सेल नहीं कर सकता है, लेकिन इंटरस्टेट बाइंग तो कर सकता है।
यस
उसमें
सर
कहीं पे भी रोक है, तो इसीलिए क्वेश्चन ऐसा पूछा गया कि क्या वो इंटरस्टेट परचेज कर सकता है, तो उसमें
ओके
कहीं पे
सर
भी रेस्ट्रिक्शन है।
नो सर
So he can make interstate inward supply. He should not make any interstate outward supply.
ओके सर
Question number 3. Mr. A is registered in Rajasthan, who is selling goods from Rajasthan to Gujarat. Turnover of Mr. A is 73 lakhs in the preceding financial year. Whether Mr. A is eligible for composition scheme. First part of the question, उसका आंसर पहले बोल दीजिए। Not eligible. Not eligible because he is making a interstate outward supply, that is from Rajasthan to Gujarat he is selling, so he is not eligible, which means he is making a interstate supply. So this is a practical scenario that when you're making a interstate supply, you cannot opt for composition scheme. Second part, ठीक है, second part is that where he is selling or not selling, that's separate thing. He's buying from Gujarat and selling goods in Rajasthan. Can he then opt for composition? Yes, he can. Because same Previous question, I had mentioned interstate purchase. Here, I have not made mention interstate purchase, but the scenario I've given that he's purchasing from another state to this state. So in this scenario, he is eligible because he is making purchase from Gujarat. Then he is eligible for composition as the restriction is again on outward supply should not be interstate, but inward supply can be interstate. Question number 4. Fourth scheme, he can go for Refuker scheme. Fourth question, you're saying he can go. Okay. You can go for regular portion. Okay. He can go is what few are saying, and few are saying he can go for regular scheme. If you're saying that he can go for regular, that is correct because he is not eligible for composition scheme because he's a non-resident. A non-resident cannot go for composition scheme. Question number 5. Mr. A is a dealer who is selling goods which are leviable to GST. It's eligible for regular scheme, correct. Mr. A is a dealer or who is dealing in leviable to GST, exempted goods and non-taxable goods. His turnover in the preceding financial year is 110 lakhs, 20 lakhs and 30 lakhs. Goods which are liable to GST, exempted goods and non-taxable goods respectively. Whether Mr. A is eligible for composition scheme. Resident, not ordinary resident, all of those things are not there under GST law. GST law has only two things, Praveen, whether he is a resident or non-resident. Doesn't talk about resident, not ordinary resident, nothing. That is there for the Income Tax Act. Yes, he is eligible for composition scheme, says Bhumika Agarwal. Pallavi Jha says yes. He eligible. Okay, everybody is seeing eligible. Afsal is saying not eligible. Dealer cannot sell exempted goods. That's a good view. Can a dealer not sell exempted goods? Why can he not sell? Most of the answers are wrong because you're saying he is eligible. On what basis are you saying he's eligible? The aggregate turnover, actually, we have discussed this, that aggregate turnover includes all types of supplies made by the person registered under single PAN. Anyways, here he has one branch, but the total turnover has to be considered. If a person is selling the goods which are not leviable to tax under GST, then he is not eligible for composition scheme, correct? But in this case, he's not only selling those goods, he's selling all types of goods. His aggregate turnover exceeds 150 lakhs. Okay. I've clearly mentioned that his turnover in the preceding financial year, that is the turnover of the preceding financial year. not current year. Preceding financial year is 110 plus 20 plus 30. We have to see the aggregate turnover of the previous year, whether it's crossing 150 crores, 150 lakhs. In this case, 110 plus 20 is 130, 130 plus 30 is 160. So previous year, the aggregate turnover is exceeding 1.5 crores. So this year, he cannot opt for composition.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, sir, dealer is a trader. He's not a manufacturer. Sir, we have seen in manufacture in all exempted goods and all goods are included while calculating his aggregate turnover. But sir, in a trader, exempted goods are not included.
I will tell you where is this confusion coming from. The tax payable by a trader is on the turnover of taxable supplies. Okay, he will not pay tax on that. But to be eligible, we have to calculate the turnover of 1.5 crores in the preceding financial year. This is the aggregate turnover. Okay, whether he is eligible for the scheme or no, we will see the aggregate turnover. And the definition of aggregate turnover for a trader or manufacturer doesn't differentiate. The aggregate turnover will be aggregate turnover for everyone. And this aggregate turnover includes taxable supplies, exempt supplies, export of goods, and interstate supplies. It includes all the turnover. If this turnover is less than 1.5 crores, then he is eligible for the scheme. If this aggregate turnover crosses 1.5 crores, he is not eligible. Now, if in case the turnover is less than 1.5 crores, then turnover in a state, that is when what basis he will pay tax, that will be only on taxable supplies for a trader, but for a manufacturer, it will be taxable and exempt supplies. Okay. But
Sir,
the aggregate turnover will be the all the turnovers which has to be included.
sir, this means that for registration we have to see the aggregate turnover, and for paying the tax we have to see the specific state or UT turnover of that manufacturer or a trader. Correct, sir?
Correct. Correct.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So many people got confused here saying that he is eligible. No, we have to see the aggregate turnover. Now, if the aggregate turnover is crossing, then he is not eligible for the scheme. Anirudh, I've explained in the slide, right? Now you got the difference between what is aggregate turnover and turnover in a state. Question number 6, Mr. A is selling goods through e-commerce operator. Turnover of the preceding financial year is 71 lakhs. Whether A is eligible for composition scheme. Not eligible. E-commerce, not eligible. Yes. No, because he is selling goods through e-commerce. Correct. So all of your answers here is correct that if you are selling through e-commerce operator and e-commerce operator deducting TDS, then he is not eligible for the composition scheme. Question number 7. A person has two establishments, one in Uttarakhand and one in Rajasthan. The turnover in Rajasthan is 60 lakhs and turnover in Uttarakhand is 30 lakhs. He wants to opt for composition scheme in Rajasthan. He is in a trader of goods. Let me make it short so that you're not confused. Whether he can do so. Now he wants to offer composition only in Rajasthan. Can he do so? can't see the question. Okay, 7th. Yeah. A person has two establishments, one in Uttarakhand and one in Rajasthan. The turnover in Rajasthan is 60 lakhs and turnover in Uttarakhand is 30 lakhs. Now he wants to opt for composition scheme only in Rajasthan. Can he do so? Yes, if all registered person opt for the scheme. Okay. So you are saying if Rajasthan wants to opt and Uttarakhand also opts, then we can go for composition. Yes, all registered places opt for the scheme. Hasi Agarwal is also saying yes. Aggregate turnover is 90 lakhs. Karan Kumar is saying no, you cannot go. No, he cannot offer composition in only branch if he is opting all the branches. Correct. So the important point is for any person to go for composition, it is not possible that he goes for composition in one branch and composition regular in another branch. First thing you have to understand that if in first we'll read this, then I'll explain it to you. Since his aggregate turnover for the previous year on his permanent account number was more than 75 lakhs, therefore he cannot opt for composition scheme for the state of Uttarakhand, because to consider the limit for Uttarakhand, it is 75 lakhs and 75 lakhs is aggregate turnover. So aggregate turnover is crossing 75 lakhs. So he cannot opt for composition in Uttarakhand. Since he cannot opt for composition in Uttarakhand, therefore he cannot opt for composition in Rajasthan. So even though he may be eligible individually, so if you see the limit for Rajasthan is 1.5 crores, he is below that. Uttarakhand, the limit is 75 lakhs, here also 30 lakhs is below that. So individual state wise, if you see separately, he is eligible, but the law says that you have to see the aggregate turnover for overall eligibility. Now his aggregate turnover is crossing 75 lakhs and Uttarakhand limit is 75 lakhs. So there, if he cannot, then he cannot in other states also. So one thing what we learn from this example is that a person who is opting for composition scheme should opt for composition scheme for all his branches across the state and across the country. If one branch he wants to opt for composition, then all the branches should opt for composition. If he wants to come out of the scheme, all the branches has to come out of the scheme. It should either be regular in all the states or composition in all the states. He does not have an option to say one state regular, one state composition. That is not possible. Okay. Some MCQs for a quick recap. Which of the following union territories has its own legislature? Most of you have given correct answer, and those who are giving wrong answer are also correcting it. So the correct answer is, it is B, which is Delhi, Jammu and Kashmir, and Pondicherry. These are the union territories which have their own legislature. Mr. A is a trader in goods in the state of Sikkim, having turnover of 69 lakhs in the preceding financial year. Whether Mr. A is eligible for opting for composition scheme? Second one, everybody is saying answer is B. Correct. It is B because he is in Sikkim, he is in special category states, so the limit applies is 75 lakhs. He is eligible for the scheme. See, what is the turnover limit for service provider to opt for composition scheme? Three confusing answers. If you are saying D, if you are saying B, is it D? The correct answer is B. A person who is opting for composition for services, his turnover should be up to 50 lakh rupees. But the 10% of the turnover or 5 lakhs, whichever is higher, doesn't apply for a composition person who's opting for services, who is doing trading activity, and the limit for marginal services is that B. But a person who is opting for composition scheme for services only, there it is 50 lakhs. Okay, don't get confused. The limit of 10% or thing is for a trader or a manufacturer who wants to do marginal services. There they can do this, but for services, it is purely 50 lakhs only. Question number 4. more than answering it correctly, have you understood the question and answering? It's not like a KBC that fastest fingers first will get the reward. The questions are to give you the practical exposure and make you understand. Correct answer is, oh, some are saying B also. The correct answer is actually B. Composition scheme does not apply to a non-resident taxable person. The limits and all will apply to a resident person. At the threshold itself, he is a non-resident. So it will not come into the 75 lakhs or 1 crore limit. Fifth question. Answer starting with A, C, and D. So luckily B is missed out, but everybody is saying B. Oh my God. How can D be the answer? The trick is it is higher or lower. It is C. So the correct answer is C. Okay. He can provide services up to 10% of the turnover or 5 lakhs, whichever is higher. It's not whichever is lower, whichever is higher. Okay, be careful. What is the limit said? It is 10% of the turnover of 5 lakhs, whichever is higher. Sixth question. Why not A? Because he is opted for composition scheme. So he can't do services. Is he eligible to provide services? You're saying no. A says that he can't provide services, but actually he can provide services, no? So the A is not the correct answer then. Question number 6. He is a manufacturer. So we had discussed this, right? That for a manufacturer and trader, there's a difference. So for a manufacturer, what will it be? Correct, Tisha. Correct, Santra. Yes. Lot of correct answers. The answer is 1% of a turnover in a state. For a manufacturer, it is 1% of a turnover. For a trader, it is 1% of a turnover of taxable supplies. So that's the difference. Manufacturer, it is 1% of the turnover in a state. Seventh question, GST be payable by a composition dealer who is a trader is liable to GST at. Are you understanding the difference? The intention is to repeat the MCQs with the same options so that you understand it. Correct. 7, the answer is C because it's a trader and we know it will not be this 0.5%, definitely not 5% is for restaurant. So it is actually 5% of the turnover of taxable supplies in a state. Perfect. What GST rate is chargeable for services supplied by a goods transport agency? This is interesting. We have not studied this today, but we have studied in the previous class. Correct. Answer is D. He can have an option of two rates, 5% without ITC and 12% with ITC. Correct. Somebody has told answer as B. Can you please tell me how is it B? Afsal, why is it B? Bhavna, why is it C? हम composition का बात नहीं कर रहे हैं ना. We are not talking about composition scheme. We are just saying what is the GST rate for a goods transport agency. GTA को तो फिर वो ऑप्शन मिलेगा ही नहीं. Correct? It will be 5 and 12% only. This is interesting question. Mr. A.R. Rahman is composed music to a music company which is located in a taxable territory. Is he liable to pay GST? Okay, again, options here. Didn't get the question. A.R. Rahman, you know A.R. Rahman, he's composing music. Now, when an artist compose a music for a music company and music company will release it, music company pays royalty for that music to the musician. Now, on this, who will pay the GST? Whether service provider, A is saying service provider, B is saying service receiver, C is saying music service falls under composition under Schedule 3, so it is out of GST or none of the above. Most of you, oh, again confusion. All the options I've got A, B, and C, and D. The correct answer is B. Services provided by the music composer falls under reverse charge. We have seen that reverse charge. I have also shared the reverse charge. I will share the thing notification. You see into that music composer, when he provides services without any conditions, where the music composer says, I will pay, then that's a different thing. But generally, when he's providing to the music company, then it will fall under reverse charge mechanism. Mr. A is a registered taxpayer under GST. He has 3 branches, one in Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, and Telangana. All 3 branches are registered in respective state with the same PAN. Till here, is it clear? He will take separate registration. He cannot take one registration. Now, Mr. X wishes to offer composition scheme for Andhra and Telangana, and he wishes to remain as a regular taxpayer in the state of Karnataka. Is he allowed to do so? Sir, Vinutha is saying B, others are saying C. Others have also started saying B. Okay, so very few people are saying C. The correct answer is, the final answer is B. No composition scheme has to be adopted uniformly. We had discussed, no, that case of Uttarakhand and Rajasthan. If you are opting for composition in one state, then you have to opt uniformly in across all the states. You cannot opt for in one state composition, another state regular. Not possible. Not at all possible. Okay. So this shows that even though you have registration in multiple states and you wish to remain a regular taxpayer in one state, not possible. Okay. Question number 11. Which of the following statements are true with respect to composition scheme suppliers? This is a little tricky. आप पढ़िए एक एक option को. What if they have different PAN? So if they have different PAN, so then that question doesn't come in. If you have different PAN, then you are different entity. How can you be under one entity? If you have different PAN, you can go for it. When will you have a different PAN? When a entity has 2 different enterprises. Okay, otherwise you cannot have different PAN. If you are one entity and if you are having branches, then you cannot have different PANs, right? You will have only one PAN because the income tax system works that one PAN for your company, right? If you have different PAN, it means it's a different company. There it is fine. You can have two states composition. For the other company which is having a different PAN, they can go for regular. Clear, Praveen? Eleven. Everybody is saying B. Some person are saying B. He can issue bill of supply. He can collect tax on outward supplies. Oh, okay. One of the important conditions for composition we had discussed is he cannot collect taxes from his customers and he has to issue bill of supply. So the answer is he has to issue bill of supply. That is correct. He cannot collect taxes and ITC cannot be claimed. All the three are mentioned in B. So B is the right answer because he cannot issue tax invoice. Tax invoice will be issued by a person who is under regular scheme and he can collect taxes on that. But in case of a composition taxpayer, he will issue bill of supply. Why? Because he cannot collect taxes regularly. So he will issue bill of supply. He cannot collect tax on his outward supplies and ITCB cannot be claimed. So answer is B. I think the last question for the day. Now we understood what is the advantage. Now let us understand what is the disadvantage. What is the disadvantage according to you? So what in case of a family business, each state owned by different siblings? Yeah. So in that case, each person is different. What you're saying is that's fine. That where a father is having one PAN and he created three company. After that, they got to run their own brand, but they continue on the same name. Okay. Owned by different sibling. Will this will be the PAN be based on same for the three companies? Yeah. If it's a family business, it'll be on one PAN itself, Praveen. If it is separate, say after the father the business got split, then on the basis of father's PAN you cannot continue the business, right? Class है रे 5 बजे क्लास चल रही है ना तो पूछ so what will happen is after the father's death the children cannot continue the same PAN, so they will have to take separate PANs. So when they take separate PANs, then it will be treated as three separate business. Then what you're saying is possible. Each of them can decide what business, whether they want to go for composition scheme or regular scheme. Correct. More compliance required is the only disadvantage, and all other cases it is advantage itself. So more compliance required. 12D is the correct answer. Yes, पूजा क्या क्वेश्चन है आपका?
सर आपकी जो स्लाइड है उसके अंदर जो पर्सन नॉट लाइएबल है कंपोजिशन के लिए, उसमें जो लास्ट 7 पॉइंट है उसमें लिखा हुआ है सप्लायर ऑफ सर्विस, तो सर सर्विस सप्लायर वालों को तो कंपोजिशन मिलता है, मतलब
करेक्ट
50 से कम वाला होता है उसके लिए।
करेक्ट। तो दो स्कीम है ना, जो गुड्स प्योरली करता है, तो इसलिए हमने ये वाला स्लाइड बनाया कि कॉम्पोजिशन स्कीम फॉर गुड्स, इसमें जो अप्लीकेबिलिटी है ये 1.5 करोड़ का लिमिट, क्या ये सर्विस प्रोवाइडर को मिलेगा? ये नहीं मिलेगा, ये मैन्युफैक्चरर और ट्रेडर को ही मिलेगा। और कॉम्पोजिशन स्कीम फॉर सर्विसेज अंडर 10(2)(a जो है, जो स्पेशल बनाया गया है, उसमें सर्विसेज को मिलेगा।
ओके सर, अंडरस्टूड। ये अलग अलग के लिए था।
करेक्ट करेक्ट।
ओके सर।
Yes, Hardik, what is your question?
Sir, in relation to the previous doubt which I asked, sir, in a marginal composition scheme for services, it is written 10% of the taxable supplies of 5 lakh, whichever is higher, state or but sir, it is specifically written that it is not for restaurant services, but sir, restaurant also comes under 10(2).
Correct. So restaurant services, they can do only restaurant services. Other than restaurant, they can't do other services.
So sir, if they are providing restaurant services, then they are eligible for this.
They are eligible because they are primarily eligible firstly. So whatever services they provide, they will charge at composition rate of 5%.
Sir, not got it. Compositions. Any example, sir?
See, if there's a restaurant, restaurant will get covered under composition scheme because
Yes.
restaurant itself is a service.
Yes,
So
sir.
apart from this service, other service provider cannot opt for composition scheme for goods. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, that marginal scheme for services will be applicable for a trader and manufacturer because they are doing mainly trading and ancillary of services. But now
Yes, sir.
restaurant service is already providing services, so you don't have to give him any marginal scheme.
Okay, sir. So they are basically already they are having 1.5 crores and 75 lakh of turnover. So no further turnover or marginal relief has to be given.
Correct.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
So in question 3B, can you say
MCQ?
no, sir, MCQ no. That yes, no question.
Okay.
Subjected.
Yes. Yes.
3B.
Hmm.
So in second case, first I understand he purchased, but then he sell. So we're going to ignore the selling point.
No. Mr. A is registered in Rajasthan.
Yes, sir.
First question said that he is selling goods from Rajasthan to Gujarat. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Then
Yes,
we
sir.
understood the first question. Now, whether your answer will change if Mr. A is purchasing from Gujarat and selling goods in Rajasthan. He is already registered in Rajasthan.
Yes, sir.
He is purchasing from Gujarat and selling in Rajasthan.
Okay. Yes, sir. I actually didn't read the first line.
Right.
Sorry. Thank you, sir.
Marginal scheme means ancillary services. Marginal services, you can say ancillary services also. Yeah, it can be any services. Ancillary, because the logic is ancillary services, but the limit did not say what services. You can do any services up to that limit. Okay. That was a very good participation, I would say. So I will try to bring in MCQs so that once you get MCQs, I think your queries on theoretical aspects is getting cleared. So we will try to bring in more MCQs from the subsequent classes. Thank you very much. We'll see you in the next class on Thursday.